to order this meeting of August 21st, school committee meeting for August 21st. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Kathleen Amaral,
Here.
Chris Oliver, Elizabeth Coughlin,
Here.
Shannon Jenkins,
Here.
John Nunes.
Yep.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so first on our agenda, we have allotted 10 minutes for public comment. And we ask that you make your comments brief. If you would like to state your name first, please, and keep to the topics on this evening's agenda. Don't all run. Oh, thank you.
So, my name is Liz Turner. Is this working? Okay, great. Okay, so I am talking to you about public comment, which is on the agenda. What I want to address is the summer reading program. Is that acceptable? It is summer. So you are going to stifle my freedom of speech. My First Amendment right is being stifled. I just want that to be very clear.
General law, the committee is not required to allow
You're not
public
the
comment,
chair.
and we are allowed to restrict comment to items on the agenda under Mass General Law.
What I will say, two items on the agenda, but I will allow for you, just if you would just, for under, I would say, the stipulation of other matters that may not have been anticipated.
Thank
But if
you.
you please keep it brief and just
Yes. Thank you.
state, you already stated your name.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Just for this evening, but as a matter of, I just wanted to, we do this, it is summer, so it's slower, but if we were to have people come up and state, about, reach out to us if you'd like something added to agenda, but
I did,
if everyone
but-
were to come
yeah,
up
okay.
and state, we wouldn't really get the business of the meeting done. So that's really the purpose, and to my colleague's point, it's not, it's good practice, I
Okay.
think, but at any rate.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it. So I just would like to bring up some concerns about the reading program. One is the discretion of the books on the reading program, and the other is the way the program is laid out itself. There are a couple of books, two in particular that I'm aware of, that have extremely mature content in them. One of them is called Verity, and the other one is called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Those are the two I know of. What they have in them, Verity has graphic sexual content, as well as coat hanger abortion, I'm sorry to say, and murder, of course. And the other one, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, is filled with drug use, where it's extensive and pretty much no role models in that book. I'm not sure why those were allowed to be on the program. The problems with our program is they only allow a certain number of kids to be in each book, and so some kids have to pick these books even if they don't want to read them because of the limits put on each book of the 46 choices that they have. So I would like to ask that you consider not limiting kids to the books that are in the summer reading program. I would also like to ask that if a kid is reading a book and it's too much for them, that you have an easy way for them to switch to another book. If during the summer they're reading a book and it's too hard a content for them. And I would also like better discretion maybe from our librarian to help us with maybe ratings of if it's 18 plus for mature reading, either that it's parental consent or that it would be not even offered on our agenda. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? I don't see anyone running. Okay, So we're going to close public comment, and we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we had the, just the regular session minutes from July 17th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now to old business. We have, sorry, I do need glasses. I don't know if you want to introduce
I know-
Mr. Tattlebaum and
We have Mr. Tattlebaum here from the town side of to talk about the town's commitment to Indigenous people, history, and the Culture Committee. I know that you have been meeting together with folks from the school department, some of whom are here this evening, and that you are going to come up and give us an update. And is it Lily? Lily Chamberlain from Dartmouth High School is also going to. Oh, okay. Come on up.
come on up. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I wrote a few things down because I didn't want to forget
Go right
anything.
ahead. Yeah.
I'm on the Indigenous People History and Culture. It's called a working group right now because we're not a committee yet. That's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get to be a committee, but I'm Lily Chamberlain. I teach Spanish here at Dartmouth High School. I'm also a resident of Dartmouth, and both my children graduated from Dartmouth High. The Multicultural Club, which I advise, began its efforts towards self-education regarding the local Wampanoag tribe several years ago. Particularly when the Indian mascot issue came up, we realized we needed to educate ourselves in order to properly understand the issues involved. We attended an online field trip during the pandemic, during which Cora Pierce of the Pocasset Wampanoag spoke. We watched videos that Rob Perotti and Judy Cronid made several years ago, in which they interviewed Jonathan Perry and Elizabeth James Perry of the Wampanoag. We learned about King Philip's War, Indian boarding schools, and current issues that affect Native people in our country. We educated ourselves about these topics. We did not assume that it was the responsibility of Native people to educate us. When I joined the Indigenous People History and Culture Working Group last January, I continued to educate myself by talking with members of the local Wampanoag tribes. I had long conversations with Cora Pierce, Ellie Page, and Donna Reendance Page of the Pocasset Wampanoag. They all have been extremely generous with their time and their expertise. David has had conversations with members of the Wampanoag, and before I joined the committee, there were conversations with members of the Mashpee Wampanoag. Through these conversations, we all learned a lot. For example, Star of the Sea, that spit of land that sticks out into the north end of Padenaram Harbor, which is today a nice residential neighborhood, used to be the site of a Wampanoag summer village. They would build fires there to cook up lobster, fish, and clams after fishing in the harbor. King Farm, which is just a stone's throw away from here, is also a site where numerous artifacts have been uncovered. It's likely that this whole area, from the King Farm wrapping around to Star of the Sea, was an area of settlement during the summer months when the weather was nice. Also, where the North Dartmouth Mall currently stands used to be a large cornfield which the Pocasset Wampanoag cultivated. Corn was one of their staple foods, along with squash and beans. Where Walmart now stands was the site of another Wampanoag village. We also learned about concerns regarding the informational kiosks our group would like to erect around town. When people dig up artifacts, they do not realize they are oftentimes desecrating a grave. The ancestors of many Native people were buried with everyday items such as crockery, arrows, and axes. When people dig up these things, they often do not realize this is a burial site. Cora Pierce wanted to make sure that any kiosks we erect will not be at sites where people might want to dig. So we have adjusted our ideas about the locations of our kiosks so as not to encourage treasure hunting. We've had helpful and productive discussions with a number of Wampanoag tribal members, and we have asked those people that we spoke with if they would like to be part of our committee. So far, all have declined. And I would like to reiterate the responsibility for educating ourselves and our community about the Native heritage of the area rests on our own shoulders, not on the shoulders of the Native community. If they do not want to serve on our committee, it is their right to decline. Given the history of this country and our region over the past 400 years, I don't think it's surprising that they would decline. When the Dartmouth community That is what this working group, which is not yet a committee, is trying to do. To suggest that just because we do not have a Native member in the group makes the group illegitimate is insulting at best. We are obviously trying to use primary Native sources as much as possible. We also have Mary Waite and Sally Aldrich in our group, and Sally Aldrich has written a book about Dartmouth history, including the pre-colonial era. We are lucky to have such a well-educated and dedicated group of people who are willing to do this work. Would we like to have some Native members in our group? Of course we would. But even if we don't, this work should continue. And my final point, in the draft charge that we submitted to you, we mentioned voting and non-voting members. This proposed committee is an advisory committee. We will not have any actual power. We will simply be advising the select board and the school committee. You all are the ones who will be taking votes and making decisions. This is a group that operates by consensus. All we're trying to do is put together some educational experiences for the community. We will not be voting. So if we could change the wording about voting and non-voting members, that would be fine with us. As far as changing the charter, that is a lengthy process that would probably take about 2 years. And do you think people in town would be excited about allowing people who do not live in Dartmouth onto all town committees? I don't see how that would pass, and again, trying to make a change in the charter would cost us a lot of time with no certain outcome. I believe that the work of educating our community about its Native past should continue, and should continue now. This important work has been overlooked for too many years. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. David also has a couple of comments that he would like to make.
Step on up, Mr. Tuttlebom. Thank you for that, Lily.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you, Lily. One fine example of one of our fine teachers in school. I'm particularly proud to follow in her footsteps. I'd like to be able to, I am a member of the select board. Mrs. Brooks, Heidi Brooks, is also a member of the board, and she was going to be with us tonight, but she was unable to attend. We have been charged by the select board to try to make this committee happen. I am also one member of the select board. I represent me. If we agree on anything, I'd be happy to go back and fight for it with the rest of our board, but I think it needs to be said. I want to make a one for instance. There was an issue in language that made some members of this committee uncomfortable regarding the curriculum. So we sat back and looked at it, and we agreed. And we changed because the curriculum is in complete and utter control of the school committee and the school department, I should say. Understood that. It was, I would call it a oversight. We changed it. We agree. That is not part of our purview. If asked, get people in to talk about it, we'd be happy to do that, but the curriculum. So that was an issue that now has moved on. What I'd really like to try to accomplish here tonight, and Lily said it's very emotional for her because she's had a long history with it as well. I'd like to walk away here with an understanding of what we're trying to do. As recently as today, I've been in contact with a board member from the Wampanoag Aquina tribe, which they are located in the Vineyard. We have from day one desperately tried to bring in members who are of the tribe, be it Pocasset, be it Aquina, or whomever we can find, that would be also conveniently a resident in town, which would take care of everything. And we will continue to try and turn over every rock and talk to as many people as we can to find those members. I've had other recent contacts as well, and we're trying hard to do it. And we firmly believe as a committee, as Lily said, that to have that logo without this kind of a program where we're educating our kids at intervals that you agree on as a school committee, school department, but also recognizing the history in town is what our goal is. Because a logo means nothing without some respect for the history and also making it clear to our residents that there's a lot of stuff out there that people could know. I'd like to be able to have any questions regarding what we can do as a committee or what we can do as a select board I can bring back. I'd be happy to talk and discuss about it, but I can't say it much better than Lily did because she's been doing it even longer than I have. So any questions, be happy to talk about it.
Dr. Jenkins?
So I have a question. I've heard on several occasions that this is part of the town charter, but I've read the town charter and I do not see anything in the town charter requiring committee members to be town residents. I see that in the town bylaws. And I think that's a distinction that's an important difference, because the town charter amendment is very different than a town bylaw amendment. Town meeting is empowered to change town bylaws. Town meeting is not empowered to change the charter. And so I don't see it. I'd like to see it in the charter. Maybe I'm misreading. I don't know where it is, but where I read the residency requirement is in the town bylaws.
As far as I know, that is correct.
Okay,
We were-
so-
We were directed that that's what the rule is for us.
Okay, so I just want to be clear about
Yep.
this, though, right? Because a charter process requires a vote of the community, a charter amendment. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Nance, you're my historian. But a bylaw amendment requires a vote of town meeting,
Bylaw
and that's
does re-
different.
Bylaw does require a town meeting. A charter also goes through the committee.
Town meeting.
Through town meeting to
And-
the voters.
Correct.
It's a less lengthy process as a bylaw. That is
Correct. So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's an important distinction, because my primary concern, I appreciate all this work. I am a supporter of all this work. But when we create members of the committee that are not equal, right, I think that's highly problematic given the history. I could be persuaded to go around this if there were some stronger requirement for official consultation with tribal members. Because right now, the language that we've seen so far is that the committee may invite representatives of tribes, local, national organizations, may. And I think, again, it needs to be partnership, right? Because I think Ms. Chamberlain made an important point, that we were doing this work and we had some ideas, and then when we consulted with our Indigenous neighbors, they were like, well, there are some problems with that. And so I think there needs to be a stronger requirement. Not just, I've had some conversations with some tribal members as well who have raised concerns to me that when we go to this person or that person in the community, they may not represent, right? You came here and you said, I don't speak for the select board, I speak for myself. Mm-hmm. When we talk to individual people, they speak for themselves, not for the tribe. And so my concern is that right now I feel that consultation is optional, right? And that the only required consultation has town members being voting members and non-town members being non-voting members. Either we amend the bylaws to allow a certain number of non-town members on town committees. There are times when that is useful. Maybe we set it up so that no more than 25% of a town committee can be non-town members. There are ways to do that when it resides in the bylaw. The other option for me is to put stronger provisions requiring consultation through official channels, right? Because again, that's different than ad hoc consultation with individual people, right? I can't represent the board. Like if we have a conversation, I don't represent the board, I represent me. It's only when you come before this board that any decisions that are made represent the interests of the board. And I think we need to interact with our tribal partners in the same way.
So either process will be an extended period of time. Charter is 2 years for sure.
It's not a charter. It's
No,
in
no,
the bylaws.
no,
I think we need to be clear about
If it were a
that.
charter change, it's 2 years. The other will take at least a town meeting?
Town meeting.
Right, okay. Which
That's
will,
how I would understand it. I mean, if you have zoning bylaws
Okay.
and everything else and personnel bylaws type of deal, those
I
are.
would like to, if that's what we should do, and amend it, if there's a hunger for that, to change it for this I've never run into this issue until now. And there has been never a question or a thirst to say we need to have non-residents on a committee. Okay, now we have it. And I would love, in a perfect world, I'd love the Aquina tribe and the Pecasta tribe to come to us and say, we're going to designate this person to represent us. They'll come to the meetings, they'll listen, they'll come back to us, we'll tell you how we feel, and we'll come back. I wish that were the case. And if that's what it takes to try to do, fine. I have to say the communication amongst the tribes and between the tribes is not finite, it's difficult. And everyone here knows that as well. So what I'm saying to you, we have people thirsting to try to do something that's the right thing to do, and we also have obstacles. And how do we get to the obstacles so we don't have to wait for either a June town meeting or a charter 2 years from now? Make this happen and make sure we're protected so that we do something that's reasonable and not have to have, vulnerable to all kinds of outside residents being part of committees, which I don't think that would happen anyway. But I'm here to say, what do we need to do and the language you have to get this done so we can move forward. And if you want to write the language, I'd love to listen to it, Dr. Jenkins, and whatever. And
Unfortunately, I have a full-time
sympathize.
job that's taking up a lot of my time right now, and I
sorry?
don't have the time for that right now.
Okay, but you have a strong opinion about how we should proceed.
Sure.
So I'm listening.
As I am allowed to.
No, I want to listen. That's why I'm here.
Absolutely. So I think as presented, if it's not a voting committee, but a consensus committee, and clearly you have reached out, and if we do change the language so it's a little more strong in that we will seek out, that's great. I do see the issue with if you got a town resident who was Indigenous, that they only represent themselves. And I do see the problem that heads of tribes represent the majority of their tribe that is working with them. So I don't feel personally that you need to change, not the charter, but the bylaws. I don't. If you change those two things, the voting and make it stronger language, I don't have a problem with it.
And I'm wondering if unless my colleagues have something to add. I think you said a little bit of it, but if we could we do both? Perhaps continue it in the iteration of a working group, add some stronger language. I'm just thinking, I was trying to look it up and my computer wasn't working, but in Mass General Law, Chapter 171 was the beginning of family engagement and, having a seat at the table. And the wording was something to the effect of, substantial consultation. But if we were to add language that said substantial and documented, because I appreciate Lily's, it's what you're doing, it's, we've had a conversation about this. You're trying to engage folks in that way. And you got nothing, like nobody's answering the call.
And we're not giving up either.
And you're not giving up, and we appreciate that. But I just wonder if that language could be so strong as to paint that picture of what you're doing so that it's keeping you on task, but then in the same, I do believe working to change the bylaw because of, thinking collaboratively, thinking community, right? Our Board of Health often thinks about the community and the folks that come through our community, right? And so in changing, I don't think we're going to have 1 million people stepping up to join our boards, but if we were to work on that bylaw language so that it can formally, present a situation where, yes, you're still doing the consultation,
My personal
but
opinion of that is that I think you'd have an awful lot of pushback on that, but I think we need to find out, this is democracy, and find out what the majority says, but I cannot, from my point of view, the years I've been around, I've never heard this discussion or request, so as I said before, but.
And I think in working on finding out what that pushback is and seeing how we can clarify, the purpose and move through that, just my thoughts. But I appreciate the work. I just think it's so important to not give up. And I appreciate Dr. Jenkins' knowledge of all the nuances of that. But I would love to see us do both, move forward formally,
I don't have any issue with Dr. Jenkins, what you have to say, and the protection you'd like to have for the town, for the schools and the tribes. I just think, can we put together some simple language to satisfy that? We can move on.
Yeah.
That's it.
You spoke so eloquently about that and what you've learned and how you've shifted and to accommodate, what you've learned.
So I think, Kathleen, if I may, you suggested language, right?
did.
Instead of the committee may invite, right, it should be shall include substantial consultation.
And documented consultation.
Part of that language was not about tribal members. Maybe it's confusing, because we felt that we want to have the option to bring people in
No,
to
it does
talk
say
to
by
us.
non-resident and New England-based Indigenous people or local or national organizations of
Yeah.
Indigenous people.
Which-
I appreciate all of this work.
Maybe that's
I think,
too ambiguous.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm an institutionalist at heart as a political scientist, right? And we can't build committees, structures that are based on people, because people change, people move on, different people are elected. We have to build structures that withstand turnover in people so that we have, right, if in someday, 5 years down the road, this committee still exists, different people come, we have the structures in place to ensure that that sort of collaborative work that Lily was talking about continues. And so I just want to make sure that when we build the structure, we build it properly, that reflects the work that you're doing so that this work continues on in this way in perpetuity, right?
I just want to make one thing perfectly clear here, and frankly, you heard it in frustration in Lily and from me as well. I am tired of people talking about this committee in this town, and how can you bring someone in here and not give me a vote because you don't really want to have a try. It's crap, and I'm sick of it because this comes from a genuine concern to do the right thing. And it has nothing to do with anything but that. And we have a lot of things pulling from different directions, and let's button up the language and we can move forward. And frankly, if you don't like it, we'll do it again, we'll revise it again, but that's...
If I could just interject here, for what it's worth, my 2 cents. First of all, I want to thank you both for being here this evening and representing the group. You know, clearly a lot of hard work's been done, you know, with this, no doubt about it. I'm not going to get in your way. Personally, I'm speaking for myself here. I think we should move forward with how it is. I certainly understand where Dr. Jenkins is coming from. I also expressed some concerns at the last meeting, but you being here this evening, I apologize, I did miss the beginning of the presentation.
She can read it again if you like.
I'll watch it on replay. With that, though, you know, I'm very comfortable after hearing what you have both said. I agree. There's some passion. We need to move this group forward. We formally adopted the Dartmouth Indian. It's been recognized, and I think you know there's certainly an appetite to move forward to do some more. And part of that is this committee. So I certainly would not stand in your way. But I do think that we should at least explore looking at the bylaws. I think that's at least worth looking at.
I understand what Shannon is saying, and we talked about this ourselves. I mean, it didn't feel right for us to say voting and non-voting members. So I guess what I would, like to try to do is maybe talk to the town administrator about whether we can just take that language out. Do we need to have voting and do we need to even say that? I don't know.
Right.
My read of the bylaws, I would agree with Mr. Tattlebaum on this, that if it is an official town committee, the bylaws currently require committee members to be town residents. Yes. We don't disagree on that. It's just where the placement of that is. So I think that is they can't be committee members if they're not town residents, correct?
Voting.
Is that what the language says?
Yes, it does. Voting.
Okay.
And a town employee who is not a resident town is an ex officio but has the ability to vote because they are a paid town staff. That's my understanding.
If the stipulation, the language is important there.
I agree.
Right. If it says they're not allowed to be voting members, then take it out and we're fine, I think.
So I think we need to go back to the town administrator and check on that, and also check, I just think changing the bylaw, if we're gonna change the bylaw to say that people from outside of town can be on a committee, then I don't think that's gonna fly. So I don't really know if that's the way to go either, but again, we can talk to the town administrator about that again.
Somebody had their hand up. Bess, and then Bess, and then John. Yeah, go ahead, Bess. Go ahead.
So I think it would be a tough sell for the town. And does every committee in Dartmouth make decisions by vote? Or are some of the committees more Quakerly and
No, some
by
committees
consensus?
are, like this one, is an advisory committee. You can
I feel like
advise.
if no one's a voting member, if we put that in the language, then we don't need to change the.
I would agree.
Would it-
The other thing I'm thinking, it's really going backwards here, but and I may be completely wrong, and I don't want to devalue the work of this by not calling it a committee, but could we change it to something different? I mean, like a working group, like that was suggested. Dr. Jenkins.
So this is totally above my pay grade. You'd have to probably talk to Mr. Savastano about this. But, right, this is essentially an intergovernmental relations council. It is. The Mashpee and Aquinnah are, in fact, sovereign nations, right? They are official governments. So you could create, I don't know how that works, right? But you could create an intergovernmental relations committee where the tribes, they select the members of that committee, right? So we select our members, they select their members. It could be anyone they want, right? Like it could be someone from the town of Dartmouth, it could be someone on the tribal board, that is at their discretion. And then there's a full partnership in this intergovernmental relations, right? So that's another option along your lines of some different form.
The elephant in the room, however, are the new and more stringent open meeting laws. And it's almost as if for the protection of town staff, employees, residents, that these ad hoc committees have to really be eliminated, or whatever they are, because the following open meeting laws is becoming more and more stringent, more difficult. I've attended two seminars on them both because it's going to get worse, not better. So we have to deal with the open meeting as well.
Yes, but, right, an entity like CERTA or SMEC, right, which is subject to open meeting laws, official representatives are sent from official boards and they become an official body. So it would be a different type of official body. It wouldn't be a town committee. It would be a town, tribal neighbors, intergovernmental relations committee.
Mr. Oliver? Mr. Nunes?
No, I'm fine. I'm
No,
fine.
no,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
the one, and I'm listening to what everybody, and however this flows out, it's what, August 21st now, we've got a town meeting October 20th or somewhere in that vicinity type of deal, so I'm not quite sure if you're gonna get, it would be, Mr. McGinnis and his assistant with Mr. Savastano to try and get a bylaw put together and worked on to change everything around. So I'm not sure, unfortunately, I'm not sure that's gonna work till then, but that being said, the one question that I had, Dave, is this, and maybe I'm missing something here, but it doesn't have anything, the charge that we had, and I made mention of this, is it doesn't have any, how long the term is. Is it an open, is it in perpetuity, that type of deal. So that may be something you want to take a look. And again, I'm not trying to nitpick, but
if there's a way that we can button up the language, as you suggested, Zamaral, and try to do it from that direction, that would be simpler, and if it'd be satisfying. I think it's not Dr. Jenkins, your possible solution seems complex and time-consuming. As is, very concerned about putting that together and getting consensus that it's even worth considering at town meeting in 60 days seems like a dream as well.
I understand.
And I not judging, and I'd be happy to bring it to our board and talk to them about it. As one member, I can do that, but all that's going to do, as far as we're concerned, is postpone what we've been trying to do now to get moving. We would like to plan events. We would like to get location. There's a lot on the table that's just, frankly, just sitting there now going nowhere. So,
and you had something else to say too, but do you want to go first?
What do you need, what are you looking for, Mr. Tattlebaum, from us? Because I agree, I don't want to, I want to move this along. There's a lot of people trying to do a lot of good things here. So what are you looking for us? We told you what we're looking for as far as taking that voting language out of there, one of the, right?
in the perfect world, if you could just rewrite, addition, or rewrite the charge from what you think is perspective, have a meeting and agree on it and bring it back, I'm sure we can work with that. If at some point, maybe looking towards June town meeting, if the thirst and hunger was there to recommend to us that we should reconsider the bylaw, then that's something I could also present. But in the meantime, if you could button up the language that's just to it that you could agree on, I think you know how we feel about it. And in terms, as far as term limits, et cetera, Mr. Nunes, I think we've done that, but we haven't moved forward. But it's not that difficult to do.
Yeah, no,
as
I
well.
understand.
So I'm thinking, it sounds like perhaps we may have some sort of agreement that, and if I will, if it's okay with the committee, I would happily take my notes, Kate's notes, and give some final language,
Okay.
and then perhaps present it again. But I think it's the non-voting, voting piece, the substantial consultation piece, perhaps some clarification on terms or whatever.
Yeah,
But you've got the group, you've got the people that you need that have been doing the good work right now anyway, but, and then getting that back to you.
And you have, by the way, the two staffers that have been on this committee have done really tremendous work. They're
Yeah.
fantastic. And Mrs. Brooks is as passionate as all we are about doing it. So did I leave anybody else out that I should mention? I don't think so, but if I did, I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from, Doc Jenkins, and I agree with you. If there's some way we can do it in a light compromise to move us forward, and then in the longer term, if there's something we should be doing, there's a hunger for that. You know, I've said this many times, that we're a big, big town with a little tiny government, and it ties us up in knots. And this is a perfect example of, you know, we can spin our wheels and talk about this, and 2 years from today, we won't even have a committee because it'll just dissolve. And these are the things, there's no hunger to change our government structure. People think it's very efficient, it works well. And the select board solves all the problems, just bring them to us and we take care of them. So there's no hunger to change it, so we need to work around it and get it done and satisfy what I think are very legitimate concerns and perspectives, because we're going to get it done as a team, that's all that's going to happen.
And
And
so, tell me if I'm right or wrong, does this require us then, with me sort of scribing something new, or taking in everything we've discussed and
Modification.
modifying it, is this going to have to go to next meeting, or is there a way that we can separately, I could pass it through does this have to wait 2 more weeks, or
It's gotta
wait.
wait, because
Okay, we can't,
other than that, you're violating
open meeting law by, okay.
And this is the luck of the draw, I'm here tonight because this meeting is in between hours. I think it doesn't happen often. And I'm not a gambler, but I know this happened this time. So if there's another time in the very near future that it would help that we come back, or I come back, and I'm available, that's fine, but
I mean, I don't think you need to come back, and I say that in the, I know your time is precious, and I think we all appreciate the work you're doing. I want to reiterate what Mr. Oliver said. We appreciate the work that's being done, right? But it's about sort of building those relationships. I also think, related to this, and I will say, one of the things that we did take out of your charge was conversations about curriculum.
Yep.
And I do think that's something that we need to put on our agenda, right? Because otherwise it gets lost. So that's a recurring item on our agenda, or we have a conversation or a check-in. We have 2 curriculum directors now who can give us an update about, again, the commitment was when we kept the logo, not just on the town side, but in the school side. And so we should be having those conversations as well.
I think you'll like what you hear from them.
Yeah, I agreed. But again, it's about being open and transparent and
Yep.
making sure that people understand that this work is being done. We appreciate it very much. I appreciate it, I know. It's just, I really, again, want to make sure we have the institutions and structures right.
And maybe, just maybe, in the next few weeks, I'm optimistic that we may have ourselves a resident tribal member as well. But they also need to represent and report to somebody else, which will be part of that language you're going to put in. One without the other, I think, I agree, is insufficient. I think we're on the real same page here, I really do.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought we'd come here tonight and get this thing done. And thanks you for listening and making this a team effort.
Thank you, David.
Excellent.
Feel a
So it
little-
sounds like there's a light at the end of this tunnel.
What's that?
Sounds like there's a light at the end of this tunnel.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank
you.
you for all
you,
of
Dave.
the great
Thanks,
work
Dave.
that you're
Okay,
doing.
Lil.
Thank you. Next item.
We're going to turn it right over to Mr. Kiley. He's going to give us an update as to what's going on with facilities and capital improvement across the district, and I can tell you there's lots.
There is. Thank you, Dr. Saban McGuire. So it's been a very busy summer for all our folks who are maintaining the buildings. I provided you in your packets with a list of projects. Some of those projects, given that we're here on August 21st, have already been completed. Some are currently in process. A few have not begun yet, and will be upcoming. So in addition to our routine preventative maintenance work that has to happen every summer, there's a few highlights on this list. We have done quite a bit of work, really over the last year, on HVAC maintenance, repairs and controls to ensure we're getting proper airflow in our classrooms and buildings. We're continuing that. We've continued that work this summer. We will be continuing that work moving forward, but we made good progress. Flooring replacement at the Quinn and middle schools. So this was the only capital improvement plan request, and we'll talk a little bit about capital improvement plan requests in a few minutes, but this was the only request that was funded at the June town meeting. And we've managed to replace a great deal of asbestos-containing material flooring in the schools this summer. We have a new walk-in freezer at the DeMello School. It's not currently cold yet, but tomorrow they're going to be installing the refrigeration equipment. The Atlas program space downstairs is looking pretty good. We were just actually, Mr. Bernat, our facilities manager, was meeting regarding paint colors. I think he met at 5 today here. So we should be pretty much at the point where we'll be ready to go. We're going to paint that this week and get that ready. We've also been painting at the Potter School, the DeMello School, the middle school, the high school. We have a group of 3 teachers who paint for us all summer, and they're awesome. They make such a big difference in the schools, and have been doing that for years. So we're very thankful to them. Kitchen renovations at the Potter and DeMello schools. Grease trap replacement at several schools, sewer line replacement. If anybody drove by the DeMello School last week, there was a big hole in the ground. We had an issue with sewer line. We had to dig up the parking lot and replace that. Tree trimming work at quite a few schools. I guess there's been a lot, really. The bottom line is a lot that's gone on this summer in a short amount of time. I'd like to thank John Bernat, our facilities manager, our maintenance team, for coordinating and undertaking all these projects. It's a huge task. They've done a great job. Also thank our custodians for their efforts to keep our buildings clean. Last week was the first week without a major scheduled program at Dartmouth High School all summer. And it was still full of kids last week, and it's still full of kids today. So it's been challenging working around all those programs, but they've been working hard to make sure that we're ready to go, and just really appreciative of everyone's efforts. So.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Kiley, for the update. Just a couple of things that I have. The first being the auditorium lighting and sound updates. Has that project been started, or is we still waiting? Because I know that's been in the alleys for a little while here.
We ordered everything.
Okay.
Well, not everything. We ordered everything on the sound side, and really need to complete that side before we get to the lighting.
Sure.
Because we're going to be kind of limited, I think, as to how much money we actually have available to do lighting work.
Because that was originally approved in CIP
CIP
few years back.
Yeah, a few years ago, as
Right.
you would imagine, the prices of everything, like everything else in the world, have changed dramatically. We are going to tackle the sound piece. We ordered everything. It's been very slow. We don't have anything yet. So,
Okay.
But we can do that during school. It's not that, we.
Sure.
Obviously, it may not be ready for certain things that we would love it to be ready for, but,
I know the Dartmouth High Theater Company is
Yeah.
itching, right?
yeah.
Second is the stadium maintenance, or the stadium storage facility.
Oh, yeah.
Is that completed?
It is completed, yep.
Okay.
That's completed, inspected, occupant, where we haven't spent a ton of time actually outfitting the inside at this point. Basically, it's keeping equipment dry and out of the weather, just because we've had so many other projects going on. But we'll be getting to the point where we can move everything in and utilize it in full, so.
That's excellent. And then second to last is just the stadium itself. I'd love to, at another meeting, maybe have some deeper conversations and get together with the turf field committee at some point to come up with maybe a plan B or plan C, because there is still some money that's sitting there, an allocation for that project. So I'd love to revisit that at some point, for sure. And then finally is just you talk about your maintenance staff. How are we at with, what do we have for maintenance staff right now?
So what we have right now is one person who does grounds. So we have our facilities manager, John Bernat. We have one person who does grounds, focusing mostly on athletic fields.
Year-round?
Yes, yeah. And in the winter, he has other projects that he'll work on to assist us when it's inclement. Although, like last winter, you could do a lot of work on the fields during the winter to get them ready for the spring, because we had quite a warm winter. We have, outside of that, we have 3 maintenance staff, full-time maintenance staff and a part-time maintenance staff member to maintain the buildings. And we're thin. I mean, it's a lot of work, maintaining 7 buildings for those folks. Ideally, we would have more staff, but.
Have you been adding it to the positions not filled? Positions not filled, but wish we had?
It's definitely on the wish we had list, and unfortunately, as we move forward and talk more about the budget, I don't think obviously that's something that while it would make a difference, and we're going to talk a little bit about the capital improvement projects and some longer term stuff in a few minutes, it would make a difference extending the life of the buildings for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just thank you to you and your staff for a busy summer, but, walking around here, the school is looking good. They've done, considering, all the heat we had and everything else in July, it's not fun. I can, only assume, and, thank them for a job well done.
I will. Thank you. They'll appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all this. It's exhausting just reading this list. Like, nope, skip, tomorrow maybe. Okay, and so next, thank you very much. Next, though, we have about the conference.
This has come up, I guess, more than once during school committee around the idea that it may be beneficial for at least one of the members to attend what they call the committee members to the National School Board Association, or NSBA, annual conference. I know that from what I've heard, you've had the discussion several times. This year, the conference is being held in New Orleans. It's April 6th to 8th. What I can say about those types of conferences is I think they can be truly beneficial to folks to connect with people at the national level, to be able to share some of what are, in fact, common experiences that we're going through, not only here in Massachusetts, but across the country. And so since that's been an area of interest for this committee, we thought it would be a good time for you to talk about whether or not you'd be able to do that this school year.
Committee members, Mr. Oliver, sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Amaral. So I think it was actually myself that brought this up initially several months back, and I know that speaking with other school districts, that they do send representatives to the national conference. I personally think it's certainly worthwhile as someone who has attended conferences in my profession, and whether or not we're able to bring something to the conference or take something away, or both, that I certainly think that it's past time that the Dartmouth School Committee starts sending at least one, if not two members, at least offering it, making it available to go to the conferences. What I would like to see, though, is some type of policy created. So obviously, we're all not going to be here forever, that moving forward, that there's at least some kind of policy on the books. And whoever, I'd like to see this committee at least send it to policy at this time and maybe create a policy around, you know, the requirements and what you're expected, what the school committee members expected to bring back to the committee to share with their fellow colleagues. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
So I completely agree. I'm not going to be going because I'm not running for re-election, so it'd make no sense for me to go, but you all should go down. My stepfather was a school committee member in Illinois, and a school board, they call it there, and they regularly went. I think the entire committee was given the option to go. I would like to see two, because I think sometimes having someone to talk about something, like in the moment, can be super helpful. Right? Like, you know, that person like, hey, how would this apply here? This is what I just heard. That works really well. So I think it's a good idea. And I think maybe, I don't think we have the money to send everyone on the committee every year, but maybe two people every year would be a good thing. So I would agree.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just went and looked, and it's a Saturday to Monday in April next year, so I'm going to make an assumption it's a fly-out Friday, come back, you know, Tuesday morning type of deal. I think it's good. You know, it's something, you know, we'll have to try and find the money in the budget this year for it type of deal. But, you know, going forward, I agree with Chris to put a policy in place so that, you know, 5-10 years down the line, people are, you know, there's something for people to follow on that, number one. And number two, more importantly, next year as the budget is built, you know, where is it in 25 type of deal, and that's what you have to look at. And I think the key thing to remember too is, you know, and I'm not being facetious, but this is not a vacation. This is going to be what you call a working vacation type of deal, because I'm going to make this wonderful assumption that you're going to be going from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, you know, with everything that goes on between the different breakout sessions that you can attend and that type of deal. So, but I wholeheartedly support it, Chris. I totally agree with you.
Anyone else?
I'd say I worry about the money.
Yeah.
And say if it's in California or Hawaii, I think we should think twice about going, like not go. But if there's good airfare and we can keep the prices down, there's certainly value there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's certainly value. I think, you know, a tight budget, right? I mean, it does, you know, look like a great opportunity. I can't even get away to, I won't be going, but I would love to hear what others learn
It's a
if
tough
they.
time for me.
Yeah. Is there any appetite for anyone on the committee to go this year in terms of like, not a solid yes or no? But-
Seriously, I would go, okay, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's a tough time for me, but, you know, if the opportunity and again, I'm one of those, you know, I'd like to see what the agenda is.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, I
Agreed.
mean, you know, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna go and there's nothing there that
Right.
tickles my fancy or something that I
Right.
can bring back. I could
Right.
bring back to the committee, or even like when I was working type of deal. No, that type of deal.
Yeah. I'd love if they offered a hybrid option. I just participated
yeah.
in a Smithsonian.
Yeah.
You know, I would certainly consider it as well. And I would say, at least for this year, and whether or not you put it into the policy, is maybe there's some kind of threshold you look at, as well as tying it to school choice funds for this year anyway.
Yeah. And Go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
And I would just say, I would not be going because I have enough to learn right here. I don't need to go away.
By then, you'll be an expert. You'll be
Yes.
fine.
Mr. Nunes?
I mean, but in all seriousness, I think as you start to draft a policy on this type of deal, you know, all things being considered as much as you can on a rotating basis, so that the same
Yeah.
the same person's not going every year. I mean, would it be my luck, be Honolulu, Hawaii, and it's not my turn,
We're not going there.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it'll be great, and then, like you said, having a policy where come back to the committee and report on the learning and that sort of thing. So there's appetite, so it's something,
Yeah.
early registration opens August 30th. Just saying. Great,
Okay.
thank you for bringing
you.
that to us. Appreciate that. Okay,
Okay, so now you're gonna have the policy committee meet.
now we're gonna have to set up a policy subcommittee meeting for that. All right, anything else on that before we move on? Okay, so we have new business. And we have SMEC here. Dr. Saban McGuire, if you want to
Sure.
introduce.
Absolutely. So we have, from SMEC, we have Kim Wilcott. She is the Director of Student Services. You can come right up, Kim. And she has some good news to share with us and wants to explain to you how this move from New Bedford to Dartmouth is going to impact the services that we're able to provide our students and students in the region. So welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be here tonight. As some of you know, we have been looking for additional space for our Therapeutic Learning Center program currently located in New Bedford for probably 4 or 5 years now. And the reason we're looking for additional space is to meet the growing need of the students in Dartmouth and other local communities. So we were really excited to learn that the former North Star Learning Center, located at 267 Samuel Barnett Boulevard in Dartmouth, was available. The location is really perfect for us because it's already set up for learning with the appropriate classroom, office, and outdoor space. So we are looking to transfer our current day school license to the new space. And of course, there are lots of steps to that process. Some of them involve town inspections, all of which have occurred. Another is a Department of Elementary and Secondary Education site review, which occurred this morning and went very well. And another is to come here and ask for the support of the school committee of the town that we are moving into. So I am here tonight to respectfully request that the school committee approve SMEC's intention to transfer our public day school license from the current location in New Bedford to 267 Samuel Barnett Boulevard. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great. Does anyone on the committee have questions? Mr. Oliver?
I'll just add, thank you, Kim, good to see you. Being the Dartmouth School Committee's rep to SMEC, this is something, like Kim has said, that it's been going on for years. We thought at some points we had a building. We went back several times now, only to find out that it fell through at the end of the day. But this is a program that is desperately needed in this region. I know that we have, SMEC has quite the waiting list at our current building that we have on Acushnet Avenue on the north end of New Bedford. And this is exciting. This is a big deal for SMEC as well as for all of our member districts, which Dartmouth as well as New Bedford, Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, Rochester, Marion, Fall River. If I said New Bedford, am I missing any?
Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational
Yeah, New
Technical
Bedford
School.
Voc, that are all member districts. So obviously we get a discounted rate for tuition to SMEC member districts, as well as just having the opportunity for school committee rep, as well as the special education directors, who are the steering committee, I believe,
Yes.
of SMEC, to bring back requests and thoughts and wishes that for these programs to even exist. So I'm thrilled, and this is a good opportunity for Dartmouth, 100%.
Dr. Tangen?
So I will make a motion that the committee approve SMEC's transfer of their public day school license from their current location in New Bedford to 267 Samuel Barnett Boulevard in Dartmouth, pending DESE approval.
Good.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. So we have a motion, we have a second. I want to thank Kim. I've known Kim for many, 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 many years. 2007, February 1st, actually, is when we met. In another lifetime, and with another hat on, with my little guy, with my old guy now. But just so thrilled to see you in your leadership role with the work through SMEC, because you're just amazing. And before we take a vote, I just wanted to ask, do you have to come to the district where it's moving? Do you have to also report to the districts that, so much legwork, but.
So our district, as Chris was saying, part of the collaborative bylaws ensures that all of our member districts really take an active role in our decision making. So our steering committee, which is comprised of all of our member district special education directors, has been well aware of this process throughout the process, and they're the ones who are really kind of leading the charge in terms of the need. And then our board of directors, which is comprised of a school committee member from each of our member districts, has been part of this every step of the way in terms of, all of the votes that need to take place in order to move us forward.
Oh, great.
So yes, everyone is very aware and on board.
And to Chris's point, it's just such a critical need in this community, and it's going to be of great service to the children. What grades, though? I'm sorry to.
So that is one of the great parts of this building. When we opened, the program capacity was only grades 1 through 4. We are currently K through 5, and the new building will allow us to be a K to 8 facility. Wonderful. All in one building.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. So we have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion besides our? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing
you,
with us.
everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay. So next.
Next, we are moving on to capital improvements, and Mr. Kiley, again, has been part of a larger group discussion about how we can work together as a town to address some of the capital improvement projects, not only at the town level, but how we can connect them to what's happening here in the school department.
Thank you, Dr. Saber-Maguire. So I included in your packet a summary of what was previously voted for the fiscal year 2024 capital improvement plan. So the loan project, as we just discussed in the summer work, that received partial funding at the June town meeting, was a flooring replacement request that we have a great deal to continue with that work throughout the district. The other requests are critical. We've talked before about the aging facilities that we have. When you take the high school out of the mix, the average age is 70, 72, or 73 years old of our facilities. So with an eye on that, we really want to approach that in two ways. These immediate capital improvement plan requests will help us maintain the buildings moving forward. There's a list here that we discussed when you approved. I'd be happy to talk about any of them individually. I'll just sort of run down the list and not get into details unless you want to talk about details on the specific items, since we've already voted on this and approved this previously. So that flooring replacement project, roofing repairs, technology infrastructure and improvements, a vehicle for the 18 to 22-year-old program, more technology, this time to fund our hardware replacement cycle, which was removed in the budget process last year, which we've received every year that I've been here previously. Bathroom renovations, fire system upgrades. Dr. Saber-Maguire and I met with the fire chiefs today, and they stressed the importance of this, and my understanding is that they are going to advocate for this to be taken care of. High school track reconstruction, energy efficient lighting projects, stadium renovations, Mr. Oliver mentioned, and music equipment. So we'd originally requested, $7,303,000, and understand that there wasn't money available, certainly at the June town meeting, to fund all those. But we're hopeful that in this process leading up to the October town meeting, that some of our requests will be considered and hopefully funded. I haven't heard yet as to when we would be meeting with the Capital Improvement Planning Committee on this, but certainly would keep you posted if and when I hear about that. I guess first, do we have questions, comments about these immediate capital improvement plan requests?
Dr. Jenkins?
So I just have a question about the MSBA repair. Is there any indication
No.
when they're going to reopen this? Like how long do we have to keep the roof afloat?
I think that it is unlikely that they're going to reopen the program this season.
This year?
Because the inflationary construction costs for their core program projects are so much higher
Right.
than what they thought. In order to keep those core projects running, they just can't.
Right.
They have a limited supply. They get 1 cent of the sales tax funds school building projects in Massachusetts. There's just no money there.
Right.
Now, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. I would imagine that if we do hear anything from them, it'll be around, normally it's around November, when they announce that they will be considering accepting, because there's a whole process, as you folks know who've been around for a while. It's a kind of a convoluted process. You need votes of lots of committees and ultimately town meeting approval to even just ask to be a part of the program. It's certainly on my list, and the second that we hear, I would come back to you and ask that we be a part of it.
I guess just to follow up, like, I'm maybe more pessimistic than you. I don't think it will open this year, and I'm actually more worried about them not opening it for a much longer window. And I guess the question is, right, that we're going to put this money into the roof, but what if they don't open the program for 5 years, right? Like, so what sort of planning are we engaging in? We're kind of putting a lot of eggs in the accelerated repair basket, and at what point in time do we start to say that might not be an option, and we have to plan for doing it ourselves, right? I'm just a little worried about that. Plus, when they open it up, there's going to be a backlog and we're going to put $225,000 into our roof to make it last, which may put us right down to the bottom of that backlog, because not that I want our roof to get bad, but I'm worried about how this all plays out.
Yeah, I think you should be worried. I certainly am. And I think that right now we have no option but to think short term. And we are still like funneling water around this building into buckets. And that has to be rectified. We can do some things to help, but they're not insignificant things. They're like opening up walls and redoing flashing and thinking about, like, it's major work that needs to be done. It's not just, you put a new piece of rubber on top of an old piece of rubber and it's going to last. It's not that type of stuff. So I'm very skeptical as to whether they'll have money as well. I think so the middle school roof was a $5 million project in 2017, of which MSBA paid, more than $2 million of the project. This project is a major roofing project and is probably going to be $8 million in today's. That's 2017.
Right.
It's to do it without MSBA, if we have an option of waiting and stringing this along, I think we should. So we'll do the best we can with that, but if you don't give us any money to do it,
Right, yeah.
that's a problem, because it will get to the point where, I don't know, it's going to be really a poor learning environment at some point, the way this is going. So, we're not there yet. All hope is not lost. We can, if we receive, this is a relatively, I know $225,000 is a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of what we're trying to accomplish, I don't really think it is a lot, comparatively speaking, and hopefully we'll get some support for that.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions?
It would almost sounds like in the long run, we could be, putting good money after bad to holding this together with, as they say, chewing gum and baling wire. So, have to keep fighting. I haven't heard anything either on it, so. But other than that, I have no comments. Again, it's everything that we went through before. I guess my only question that I have as I look at this now, and I apologize, the vehicle for the Atlas program downstairs, what are we doing for those students?
Yeah.
Come next Wednesday.
So, you're right, important question, right? We knew we weren't good, well, first of all, even if we had been funded at the June town meeting, we wouldn't have a vehicle, because they take forever to come in nowadays. Even if we had ordered one at the end of June after town meeting, it wouldn't be here. So we're prepared to, with alternative means of transport. So really looking at other ways that we can provide opportunities for kids in the meantime. And really, since the program is developing right now with our first year, it makes a lot of sense to, get this funding at some point so that we can expand to our access to the community for the kids. But in the first year, it's certainly a program that is going to take some time to develop those connections with the community and develop opportunities for kids. We do have demand response transportation that can be available to us, and certainly for some activities we can utilize a variety of different means, but long term you need something for the program for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Oliver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, absolutely. Part of my vote in approving this program, knowing what the program is all about, is making sure that these students were going to have access to our community and to those types of opportunities. So I want to make sure that this gets prioritized with the capital.
Mr. Shea is here in the background. I think he'd like to come up and say a few words.
Appreciate that priority first. Thank you. We knew this year was going to be that. So like Mr. Kiley's saying, the ADA, the on-demand transportation, that's a good skill for some of our students to also practice as well. So Ms. Steph Church, who's the teacher, and I have talked a lot about what that's going to look like. And really for the first months anyways, it's getting the students adjusted to the transition and working that way. But I do appreciate your commitment. But we are going to be working with like outside transportations for now. But thank you for the commitment. But we're in a good space with the program, and we're really excited about it.
No, I'm thrilled. I'm happy to see that Dartmouth's giving students the opportunity to stay in district versus going to a program like SMEC or South Coast has. I'm not sure if South Coast has one. But I would certainly, suggest, and maybe I'm sure our new Director of Special Education has already had conversations, reach out to the collaboratives that are offering these programs already. Why reinvent the wheel, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And Steph Church and I have talked a number of times, too, about her visiting the other programs in the area already, using some of her professional development to do it that way. She wants to do a lot of even just going to the grocery store to start and getting it. Some of the students is going to have a little bit of a struggle adjusting to, they're so fond of Miss KP, and for very many reasons, they've really matured with her. So we are expecting some transition just in the program that way anyways, so that does buy a little time on that backside of getting used to the program, getting ready for everything coming, and then getting out in the community. But one of the essentials is the community connections and being connected into the community and looking for future job placement for our students, whether it's starting some of this in our own community and then working out into the town and stuff.
Great, thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you and thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Nunes, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, just the one thing I'm thinking, and I had a note here too. One of the things that Mr. Kiley put in his brief to us is with what the town possibly could be looking to do and convening the Facilities and Field Subcommittee, of which you and I are on. So whenever you want to put some dates together and such.
Right, so I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to just talk about the current capital improvement plan request first, but now's the time. So in terms of long-term capital planning, I'm pleased to say that I was invited to a meeting by Mr. McInnes with representatives that had different different backgrounds and interests in the town to discuss long-term capital improvement planning. And I think that this is, from my experience, my 13 years here, is the first time that we've really approached this issue in this way. The initial focus of the group, what we discussed, was to look at major projects that might require borrowing or debt exclusion votes, and to look at 30-year window. So you'd imagine that with a 30-year window, we have quite a few projects in that range. Clearly, several schools should be replaced in that 30-year window, in addition to the high school roof, repairing, renovating the stadium, other things that, are fairly large scope projects. So I'm super encouraged that we're, having this conversation. I think that to prepare for our participation in this, we have the Facilities and Fields Subcommittee. I'd love the opportunity to, right now, Mr. Nunes and Ms. Amaral are the representatives. I'd love the opportunity to call a meeting for sooner rather than later. And we could get together and talk about the process, our priorities in terms of how we would want to report back to the school committee, what we're thinking. So I've been doing some research on construction costs, and it's interesting, to say the least, for major school construction projects right now. But it's important that everyone knows, and then ultimately, in the end, that the town can decide what they want the town to look like. So hopefully, if you both are willing to do that, and if that's the way the committee wants to begin to approach this, you can either provide me with some dates when you might be available, or I can offer a few dates and see if we can get together in the next 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that way we could report back to the school committee on a few progress.
Yeah, that works for me. I don't know how you think, John, with your schedule.
No, any day that ends in a Y is a good day, so, But no, seriously, I've got a couple of things on my calendar, but, see what everybody's got for dates. So, Jim, if you put some dates together. And
okay.
Yeah.
I'll send a few dates.
Send a few dates,
and we'll pick
go
one.
from
Any
there.
particular time of day that works best for people?
The earlier part of the day for me works
Yeah, early as-
best.
early
Morning meeting?
Like,
yeah,
I'm up
Time's
at
good.
5.
8, 9, I'm not being, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning works for me, or, because of your schedule, if it's got to be 4 o'clock in
No,
the
I'm good.
afternoon for the
I'll-
most
I
part.
can meet early, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I
Early,
understand.
I'm even going to, this might be too soon, but I think I'm meeting Ms. Dionisio on Friday at noon, so
Yeah, we would have to post
Oh,
the
that's right,
meeting
yeah.
and stuff.
So-
But we
Well,
could post
good
for
week.
Friday.
Yeah, if that's agreeable, but send some dates that you, and then.
Friday
do that
doesn't
through
work
email.
for me.
Okay, that's fine.
Friday doesn't, I
That's
know
fine.
this Friday does not work for me, unfortunately.
Okay, so I'll offer up some early morning meetings, and we can work something out, and then we can report back to the committee
Sounds good.
with some progress, and then certainly engage in the larger process with the town. So.
Sounds good.
What I'll do, Jim, Mr. Kiley, is I'll go home, I'll take a look at my calendar, and I'll shoot you, that's bad
Great.
for me, like,
Dr. Jenkins?
that way we're,
So in anticipation of this, would it be possible for us to resurface that old study that we did? I think the conclusions are not
6 year-
necessarily the
6 years
same.
ago?
But if I recall, that firm identified many of the deficiencies in the buildings in terms of space per student and things like that. And so that might be useful, I think, helping some of us not aware of that, but also I just remember there was a report about deficiencies in space, so it might be a helpful refresher for all of us to read that with the understanding of those numbers are no longer valid and we may come to different conclusions, but I think the issues part would be super helpful for us if we could resurface that and share it with the committee.
Will do.
Anyone else?
Good.
No? Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that segues right into talking about proposed school committee dates from October, actually September, through December of 2023. And I know that you've had certain dates that you've worked out in the past, and I think that this is just representative of the way that you have committed to dates in the past. So we're looking at September 11th and 25th for the 2 September meetings, with one of them, I'm not sure which one, being the meeting where we introduce the new hires. I understand that that's a big deal here, and there's a lot of fanfare accompanying that, so that sounds fun. October, there would only be one date, and that's because the Monday that you would normally meet is a holiday. So there would be one meeting in October, 2 in November, and then 1 in December. And so that is apparently aligned with what you've done in the past and what you've committed to for dates.
Mr. Nunes?
yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Aside from November 27th and December 11th, those are the two I cannot make, I'm not here. Unless, somebody wants to come join me on a cruise ship, that's,
I think I did respond
Yeah, you
in
did. If
the
you'd like
affirmative.
that, that's fine. But I'm serious, I'm not here for those two,
Okay. How about the rest of the committee? Or
I'm
any-
good.
Fine.
Okay.
so, I mean, I don't know if,
Is there any need to sort of think about, do we typically, what happens in the, Mr. Nunes, is there anything that you can think of historically that we've had to vote on when, at that time?
no, it would
We
be
just
no,
push it off?
yeah, you can push it off, or if you have to vote on something, you vote on something, and, I'm good. That type of thing. I mean, the other thing you can do is, for grins and giggles, if you wanted, is move the 13th to November 6th, and then go November 20th, which is Thanksgiving week. That's up to, if you wanted to do that, or just leave it, and I'm good, however this committee wants to do it, I'm fine.
Any thoughts?
I can do the 6th and the 20th, that's fine.
I could as well.
I mean, that gets the two, and again, and then, I mean, yeah, then you're into Christmas week, so
Are
never
there any
mind.
conflicts
Leave this- no,
district-wide
leave-
on the 6th
I
and the 20th?
think that would work for us.
Leave December 11th the way it is, only because you get into the holidays the following week, so I'm good with that.
I'm fine.
And again, I'm good if
No,
you
it
want to just
sound-
leave it the way it's been presented.
No, I think, do we have
I'm
to?
okay.
We don't have to formally vote on that. We'll just edit to note the, I got the head nods, John, so we're
Yeah.
moving. We're moving the dates.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Great.
11,
And then we're all
6.
going to join you on December 11th on your cruise ship.
No problem.
Great, thank you. That's great.
I'll be in Spain.
Nice.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move right into the superintendent's report. I'm going to start off by introducing you to my new superintendent, coach. I mentioned Dr. Maureen LaCroix at last month's school committee meeting, and I'm super excited to have her here tonight. I think I mentioned to you last time that I felt as if she was the perfect fit for me. So Dr. LaCroix has been a superintendent. Actually, she was superintendent in Bedford for 11 years. I think I said 8 at our last meeting, and 3 years as an assistant superintendent. And so I'd like to welcome Dr. LaCroix up to the microphone to explain a little bit more to you about what the new superintendent induction program entails, and also hopefully provide a lead-in to my overview of the entry plan.
Thank you, Dr. Saber McGuire. It's nice to say that in front of your committee here tonight. And thank you to the committee for allowing me just a minute here to tell you a little bit about the new superintendent induction program, and to thank you for supporting her participation in that program. It requires your support, and it's critical from my perspective that you do support that. This program in Massachusetts has been in existence for 14 years, and it came about through a partnership with the School Committee Association, the Superintendent Association, and DESE, that decided probably 15 years ago that superintendents needed support in their jobs. The organizations talked about, we were at the time mentoring teachers, and we were starting to think about mentoring principals, and nobody was thinking about coaching and mentoring superintendents. And the program started. It has involved most new superintendents in Massachusetts participate in the program, and superintendents who come in from out of state also participate, so they can sort of learn the Massachusetts way. The people like me who work in the program as coaches have to have been a successful superintendent in the state of Massachusetts in order to do this work. And the work really is an honor. I get to work with people like your superintendent. I've worked in this area in Fall River. I've worked with the Greater New Bedford Voc superintendent. So get a real sense, not only geographically, of the work that's being done in the area, but get a sense of different superintendents and their leadership styles. What's interesting to me in this work is that when you're in the superintendency, you can be in a small district, and I've worked in a district that had only 100 children, or you can be in one of our urban centers with over 10,000 children. And the challenges of leadership oftentimes have similarities across those different venues. So part of what we do in the program is try to bring superintendents together so that they not only have a coach, but they have a support network in the area and across the state. The other thing that we do in the program is we're not agnostic in the program. We think there are certain skills that you need as a superintendent, and that you need feedback on that as you're developing those skills. So we have a whole section of the program that's content. So superintendents in their first year attend probably 6 content days in person and some online, so that we can talk about things like leadership. How do you build a team? We can talk about school committees. How do you work effectively with a school committee? That's an important part of your job. How do you work with individual members, and how do you work with the committee as a body? So those are just some pieces of work that we do. We think it's important work, and the people who've participated in the program tell us oftentimes that was my lifeline. That really enabled me to do a better job, to sort of have somebody that I could talk to in full confidence, and somebody that would give me honest feedback about what was going well and some things that maybe I wanted to think about and work on. So I don't know if the committee has questions. I'm happy to take them, but appreciate you taking time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for mentoring.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
And you were supposed to set up my entry plan, Dr. LaCroix.
Second half of my test. So let me just, I was trying to be quick. So the three pieces of the program, and the first part of it you're going to hear about tonight, that are program requirements. We require the superintendents to do an entry plan where they get out, listen, and learn from all of the members of this community. After that, the superintendent will be back to you probably in late winter, early spring with what we call a report of entry findings to tell you, here's what I learned. And that report of entry findings will be central to developing a strategy for district improvement here. So that is work that will start probably in summer of next year and go into the following year. What's exciting in Dartmouth is you've already had a lot of good work done in this area. So it's not like a new superintendent is starting from scratch here. She's going to be building on what's already happened here in terms of the work of strategy and having an effective strategy in the district. So Dr. Saban McGuire, is that enough?
Talk just for a few more oh, there we go. Okay, we're good. No, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Oh, it's the down arrow, not the up arrow. Okay, so thank you for that. And again, it's really interesting to go through this process and have support. And I think at the beginning when I sat and talked with you about the importance of participating in a program like this, I talked a lot about networking and how I felt that networking would benefit Dartmouth, not only because I have the ongoing support as a new superintendent, but also because it really does allow you to be plugged into a lot of different things that are going on around the state. And for example, right now, I know what's going on across the state right now around public records requests because I'm part of a network of superintendents who are informing other superintendents about those kind of issues that are coming up on a daily basis. So for me, that's been really important to really just be locked into what's going on, not only here in Dartmouth, but certainly what's going on across the state and how that might potentially impact Dartmouth. But as Dr. LaCroix said, the purpose of entry planning is to provide an opportunity to learn more about the school system. And I certainly am doing that. I'm getting to know the community. And with the end result, my goal of gaining a deeper understanding of what the district's current status is. We had a district leadership team meeting today. A couple of times we've talked about the feedback that they are sharing with us as a central office leadership team is meant to be just that, to give us the current state. We're not making any judgments about that state. We're looking to collect honest feedback about where we are as a school district in Dartmouth. So one of the things that I've been able to share with the district leadership team, and I have to say that they have, I believe it's been well received, is a focus on core beliefs that school districts must act as ethical organizations. And so for me in entry planning, and I know you got a copy of my entry plan, and this is just a brief overview of it, but this plan does focus on this core belief that school districts must act as ethical organizations. I was able to share some of this again at the leadership team retreat a couple weeks ago, and we'll be sharing it again at Convocation. I think that it's an important work that can help to center everything else that we do. And if you look here, you can see that there are 5 ethics that I believe can center an organization with community being at the center. And so, for example, one of the most important ones that I think about here in Dartmouth, and I think it's like at a critical time that we consider this, is that of the ethic of community and understanding, and even here in the conversation here tonight, as we're talking about Indigenous people and how that work has to happen, not only at the school level, but at the community level. And that's what I mean by community. The schools exist as part of a community, and the moral agency is the responsibility of the community as a whole, and that we are all responsible for the interpersonal and group skills. And yes, we name them very specifically because that's important. And what does that look like? It looks like listening with respect. And again, I love that I saw that here this evening, even when there are differing opinions. Striving for knowing and understanding others, communicating effectively, working in teams, engaging in ongoing dialogue, and creating forums that allow all voice to be heard. I mean, in the last hour of this meeting, all of these things have happened to some degree, and you can actually check them off and say, okay, this is actually something that is obviously already valued in this community. Again, a draw for me as a new superintendent coming to a community. Ethic of care, this is one that I actually know I talked about in my interview because it's one that I hold dearly, that we have regard for the dignity of each person and understand the uniqueness of each individual. The ethic of critique, and this is one that is going to be on an ongoing basis all the time, and again, happening here tonight to some degree. We consistently examine barriers to fairness. I'm hearing that conversation here. We examine our policies, our practices, and our structures, and decisions that may disadvantage one group or an individual over another. And it's not about seeking that out, but it's about being critical about what policies and practices are in place, and when they come to your attention, being able to have honest dialogue about how to address those things. Ethics of equity and justice. We are going to be doing a lot of work around this in the school district this year. We talked today about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And the interesting thing is that we really had to back up, and Katie and I spent a lot of time talking about this on Friday on where we start with this work, because those are words that are pretty commonly used in education and in the corporate world and the business world right now. But we first have to develop a common understanding of what we mean by that. And so we're working on that as a school district leadership team, and we'll be focusing on that work this school year. And the ethic of profession and educators, regardless of the position you hold, I consider every single person who works in a school district, to be part of a team of educators. And we all have different roles, but in fact, we all do bear the responsibility of being educators. And we understand, and this is critical, that students are the center of ethical decision-making. And so when we continually bring back our decision-making to student-centered decisions. I listened to Mr. Kiley a few minutes ago, talk about this school, and if we don't engage in the capital improvement that needs to happen here around the roof, that this isn't going to be a healthy learning environment for our kids. That's what we mean by ethical decision-making. We always have to be thinking about our students. So it's not just the aesthetics of a school building, it's what does that mean for the students who are being educated inside that building. And so all of that has been sort of grounding the way that I'm thinking about the work here. And I want to say, and eventually we will be here talking to you about Portrait of a Learner. One of the things that I'm incredibly excited about is what the district has already developed. And I know, again, that this team, this leadership team, has come together and developed a really powerful model for what a portrait of a learner should look like in the Dartmouth Public Schools. It's not done yet, though. We recognize that. We need to include more stakeholder groups, and again, that voice is incredibly important. And so part of my entry planning has been, some of it has felt sort of organic to me, and that's why I appreciate new superintendent induction program, because it's not enough for me to say, oh, I'm out here doing this. Actually, I need to name what I'm doing and why I'm doing it instead of just doing it, because sometimes it just feels natural. And this is a way to capture what the work is and what it looks like in a way that makes sense to people so that they understand. Like Mr. Tattlebaum, I think you reached out to me. I'm not sure if I reached out to you, but why do I want to meet with Mr. Tattlebaum? Because I want to get to know this community really well. And so community building phase 1, you know, I started that back in April. As soon as I got the call, I missed the call and then called Mr. Oliver back.
We won't hold that against you.
Thank you. So it was around community building, listening and learning, and that's really where it's really where I am right now, analyzing data, sharing findings, action planning. You heard Dr. LaCroix talk about all that. So that all of that is part of sort of the big picture. And again, I included this in your packet, but I do want to say that I'll have this on the district website, and both the PowerPoint and then the narrative that goes along with the PowerPoint. But you can see just from April to August, it has been about establishing relationships with key stakeholders And the action steps are, I hope that, again, what I've been sharing with you, you can see that that's what's been happening. I've been setting, and the informal meetings have been as important as the formal meetings, because building relationships comes before the formality of a relationship. So I've appreciated that time, and you've all taken that time with me. Each school, I've been able to sit down with principals individually, collectively. It's been an important time. I already mentioned the school committee. I can't read any of that, but established. Just got my glasses out. Let's see. That's why I brought a copy. Yeah. So not that I'm going to read it all off to you, but really it's just about establishing the community groups that we continue to meet with. I just this past week sent out key community communication, both to the faculty and to the families. And again, that's part of the entry planning, so that people can kind of get to know me and what I'm thinking. And then vice versa. So listening and learning is phase 2. I think I said that earlier. Today when we were with our DLT, it was about listening and learning. It was really, let's hear what you're saying. So because we're going to need that, and we are collecting data as we do it, and we'll be utilizing that on an ongoing basis. And the questions are all, like I said, the questions we're asking folks are all part of the document that will be online. So we're going to continue that. This is entry planning at a glance, so the analyzing data piece isn't for a bit, thankfully, November through February. And that's when we're really going to spend time making sense of what we're learning. And that will culminate in phase 4, which seems like it's a ways off, February to April, but I have a feeling I'll be making a joke about that in a short amount of time. Reporting out, and that's where we'll report out on the data and collecting feedback. So we'll bring you what we've learned, and then we'll be looking to you for feedback about how you're experiencing our shared findings. And then from there, it's really about action steps. And that is where the strategic planning comes into place. Dartmouth does have a strategic plan. It needs to be updated, right? And that's pretty common in most school districts, so that's not unusual. So that is what this entire year is going to entail, is building up to, it makes me think about capital planning, and it is to some degree. It's a 5-year strategic plan that we'll be presenting next year. And so part of what I'm sharing with the community, and I want to share it with you, is together we're beginning a journey of continuous improvement guided by ethical principles to create a learning environment where every student thrives academically, socially, emotionally, and experiences a true sense of belonging. As superintendent, I want you to know that I'm committed to upholding these ethical ideals and working collaboratively with all stakeholders to lead our district toward a future of excellence as we work toward our vision of, and I love this, one Dartmouth. And so thank you. I don't know if Mr. Shea is back there hiding or anything, but yes, he's really helped us out with that. Don't worry, I'm going to be calling you up in a few minutes to talk about schedules, so you can't hide. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. It's been, again, the narrative was in your school committee packet. If anybody wants to read more of the narrative that supports this, this is really the entry plan at a glance. And so it's the work that is embedded with the entry plan that's more important.
Thank you so much for that. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Mr.
Yeah,
Nunes.
thank you, Madam Chair. I went through it, and it's funny. I got to page 2, and I was reading it, and then I went, continue flipping on August to October and entry question. And I had to make myself a note, because I got the feeling in a good way, that you were really getting into the nitty-gritty of what you wanted to do here in Dartmouth. And, I was, overwhelmed, excited when I saw that with, meeting with this group and talking with these people and working towards this goal type of deal. And I had to write that down because I know I would forget.
Thank you. And that is where I think, again, new superintendent induction program really helps to guide you in that, even though, like I said, that was happening, but it allows you to be intentional and be able to articulate not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it.
Yes.
I love that you're talking to everybody and reaching out and just hearing what they have to say and where we are. I really look forward to hearing what the responses were and where we are at.
Great, thank you.
I think it's a great plan. I'm super excited to hear the results.
I know you like plans, Dr. Jenkins.
I think it's a fantastic plan. I like to see how you're centering around ethics. I think that's huge. Some of the feedback that I've already received since you've started is you're certainly very approachable, down to earth. Seems as though you're big on getting to know people. I think in education, as in many professions, but education especially, relationships matter. Whether that's with your staff, whether that's with students, as if you're a teacher, and it's certainly important with parents in the community at large. It's so important getting to know people, and I love the ethics of care. I'm very happy with this, so thank you.
Relationships, relationships, relationships.
They're the center of everything.
Yeah, they truly are. You know, you break down those barriers and you get to see one another. And I think that what drew me to your candidacy coming here was all that I learned about your lifetime of relationship building. And it was something that was, yeah, it's beautiful to see you here now.
Thank you.
Bringing that into facilitation. But and I agree with my colleagues, and I love the just that real, true, honest emphasis on the opportunities that can come from getting that feedback in a way that allows people to be vulnerable, to be honest with you, because they know, because of that relationship building, that they can share what they're truly feeling would improve or you know, the good and bad. And I just love that emphasis on just allowing that to happen and to inform, you know, planning and, you know, constant improvement for the district. So I just love it. I look forward. We have a Special Ed Parent Advisory Council. We'll be inviting you
Great.
for your
Looking
tour
forward
on
to that.
learning. And offline, I'll talk with you. The Rotary Club wants to invite
Wonderful.
you to a meeting.
I always wanted to go to a Rotary Club meeting.
It's fun. So to see how we could be of service to the district in that way. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyone else? No?
Can I just say, I just want to thank my team who are here, and they have been amazing to me in helping this onboarding to be incredibly successful, starting with Kate Genthner, who is actually my, total guiding force every day, and I'm so grateful. And I know I said this to you, but Kate is amazing in what she does, and it is really incomprehensible how much she manages as one human being. So super grateful. I've already told you that about Jim Kiley, so if he wants to hear me talk about him, he has to go back to the meeting he missed. I did call him a unicorn at that meeting. So, and that's truth. And Jonathan, he's onboarded me, got me on my technology when I was super nervous. He did. He's very humble, but when I came here, I was like, where's my technology? And he was great. More than that, it's more about the relationships that we built. And obviously, Katie and Ross have been amazing. We've had some really great opportunities to get to know each other and to really think critically about the work that we have to do here. We've got a long way to go, believe me. It's still real new, and I know that, and we know that, but we're looking forward to the challenge. So a great team of principals and leaders here in this school district. Can't thank them enough for the last couple of weeks. The time that we've spent together has been incredibly beneficial. Mr. Oliver, it's all about those relationships because the kids are coming through the doors next week, and we're going to be leaning into those relationships as we face both, some of the wonderful things that we're going to experience and then some of those challenges. And so that's really based in relationships. So again, great team, of folks here, and I've seen some of your teachers and in action, and can't wait to see the kids and teachers in class. And thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple other updates, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Nunes.
Just for formality and for Dr. McGuire's, Saber McGuire's records and such, and also her coach, make a motion that we approve her entry plan as
Excellent.
presented tonight, just so that it's on file and we've accepted it.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Passes
you.
unanimously.
That's my first vote. Thank you.
Great. And so you have a few
Just
other-
a couple of quick things. One, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on with hiring. Principals, their teams have been busy with interviewing, and, you know, even though we've had a smaller pool of people, I do want to say that the folks that the principals have been bringing to meet me have been really high-quality folks, so you have to be happy about that. I already mentioned to you that Kate is your HR person extraordinaire, and I can't say enough about that. We do have a couple of positions that are still open that we're working on, 2 special education positions. I think one's at the high school, one at the early childhood center, a computer science teacher. We're working on finding a computer science teacher for the high school, phys ed teacher at the Cushman, a pre-K teacher. But at this time, I think that we have hired approximately 11 educators in other positions. And project time begins tomorrow, so I know that there's been a lot of great work that's happened in preparation for that. So we'll stop by and meet some of these new people that are joining Dartmouth. So I also wanted to mention at the last meeting, there was a presentation about the summer academic programs. We had mentioned that the DESE-sponsored Acceleration Academy was something that the state had supported. And again, can't give the team here enough credit for being able to lift that program and being able to walk through it. Many of the classrooms and seeing the teachers and the students at work. It's really remarkable what folks do here with somewhat scarce resources, and yet they put something together that I consider high quality for the students and the teachers here. So I already mentioned we met at the North Dartmouth Library today with the DLT team. That was great. It's so, I think, it's just such a good idea to get folks in a different environment to disconnect as we talk about some of our work in a way that allows them to be centered in where we are. Although I have a feeling that they're getting more anxious about the fact that kids are going to be in school in a week and a half, even though a week from then they'll forget that the students were ever gone. I talked about climate and culture. I wanted to keep bringing it back to that and just update you on why we think that's so important and how we understand that communication is the key to building climate and culture. So I mentioned to you that we were able to send out welcome back messages to staff and families. That was important. The schools, I've read their individual messages. There's lots of welcoming communication going on across the district at every single level. I do want to acknowledge and let folks know if anybody's watching, except for, especially our high school parents. And Mr. Shea, please come up. We have had some technical glitches with Aspen, and again, technical folks working on this really hard, and it has impacted high school schedules. We have put out communication to families, but I know. Yeah, Mr. Shea has not been sleeping well, so he can share that.
Before I begin, I do want to thank a few people, Mr. Galashaw and Mr. Faraz. Friday night, I think we were texting until about 7:30, back and forth, and trying to get it. Thought we had it up and running. Needed to do an adjustment this morning. The adjustment did not go well. The adjustment erased all of our data.
Oh, nice.
Reset us back. Luckily, there are backups. The only backup that we had was the original schedules that we had committed a while ago. Timelines, don't ask me the exact time. I've lost complete track of time on this process. As of about the start of this meeting, we feel comfortable with where we're at. We're going to test run it quite a few times tomorrow with our whole guidance team that are in to make sure that it's 100% committed, we've adjusted. The really only impact, honestly, is the AP summer work, because kids didn't know what AP classes they were in. So we have adjusted those work assignments and timelines based off of that, just in the sense of that we can't ask kids to do work if they don't know exactly what their schedules look like. There's sometimes AP classes are one off, and if they run two at the same time, then they have those choices to make about the classes. That's always how it's been, in the sense of that they have the first 10 days of school to adjust their schedule as needed anyways. So the other people I did forget was the admin team and our guidance counselors, who even gave up time sometime in the summer when we thought we had it solved early August, gave up time, thought we had it going. It went down again, and it's back up now. I think we're in a much better space. I will say, Dr. C. McGuire and myself had a conversation that when this is all said and done and they're up in, we will run like an autopsy about what happened and what went wrong, and go from there. So it's not where I want to be, and 100% transparency, but we will have schedules.
It's not where anyone wants to be, so we know we need high school schedules. That
Right.
is a critical piece of starting the school year off. But I know you and your team have been doing a great job, and Jonathan and his team, and we will be trying to figure out exactly how all this happened and determine if maybe there's something that we could have done different. So for next year.
I can answer questions. I absolutely.
I think did you raise your hand?
I have a question on not this, but for Mr. Shea, so if anybody else has anything about this. So, Mr. Shea, I just would like to ask you a question. I think there was some misinformation presented earlier in our meeting, and I want to give you the opportunity to clear it up. When I was a parent and my children were selecting summer reading, they were late. We're a little late in this. And in part, this is because I want to make them owners of their educational journey. And when the school tells them they have to do something, I don't do it for them. I don't remind them. But even when we signed up for a book really, really, really late, my recollection is there were many books available for them to choose from. Maybe not their first choice, but certainly they had several choices. And I just want to confirm that that's still the policy and the way summer reading works.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There is. That's why we have such a vast selection of books. It's trying to gain students' interest in interest that they are. We have some students that are student-led run books because we want that ownership of our learning that we've really focused on, and we've really also. In that bigger picture things is that at any time we've really tried to make a community of reach out to, and we will adjust if that's needed. That's why we start this selection process in May. Sorry if saying you were late, but that gives time in front of your teachers. The teachers present the books. They talk about the process. Mr. Higgins goes to every class.
Well, that's not on you that my kids are late. It's on my kids.
But we've always tried to, that's why Mr. Higgins goes to every class, to present the books early to make sure students, we also communicate the books to the local libraries as well, so they have the list in case there's a run, because I think that's an equity thing as well, that we want to make sure that that there are books available for them.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just think that, again, for anyone watching and worried about your schedules, we are on this. It is top priority, and we will be communicating on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's totally taken over sleep. It's taken over everything. There's a lot of people, and it's not just me, and I really mean it. There's been way more hands in it because I have not the technology savvy side of things, and it's really nice to have a really good technology team. And sometimes you have to wait on the phone with Aspen for 4 hours, and like you're playing a game of tag and call back. And I think Mr. Galashaw now has like the CEO's number probably because he's talked to them so many times. But they've been excellent. The IT department has been phenomenal.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
So the only other thing that I wanted to mention was that we'll be welcoming staff back on Monday, August 28th. All staff here at the high school. If you're planning on joining, please let us know. We definitely want to recognize that you're here. And then everybody take a deep breath because school opens for the 23-24 school year. I know I'm super excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I don't have anything
Chair.
else to report, but Mr. Nunes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. Just with Dr. Saber McGuire's two things. Number one, I will be here. I'll be here Monday.
Oh, great.
Okay, I'll
Thank you.
be here. And number two, going back to the opening of school, anybody that's been driving around town, every place you go, you know, the old adage, you can't get there from here because of all the, gas work and roads pulled up and that type of, what's this done to our transportation for students?
Yeah, it's messy. So the notices from DPW that went out go through September 22nd right now. So it's roads, so it's all over town, which is great because, fixing the roads, fantastic, full support of that. But it is a little challenging when we're trying to get our kids to and from school. So it's off Rogers Street, near the DeMello School is one area. There's in Peyton Village, there's a bunch of streets that are going to be worked on. There's off Slocum Road near the golf course that's going to be worked on, Solimar. So it's all over town. So what we have worked out with the police and DPW is that if a road is passable, even if it's closed, we'll be able to go through with the buses. We normally, work that out with them, and in most cases, it's not a problem. And they're aware of the times of day when we need to be there and try and work with us. If, in fact, a road is closed that we need to get to on a given day, we will contact parents and have them meet us at a certain location, nearby corner, and go with that. So, yeah, it's challenging. It's great, though, that so many roads are going to be fixed. It's fantastic. So.
I just thought of that, and
Yeah, it is a challenge.
Somewhat related to that, if I may, where we still have the app with the GPS
Yes.
tracking, which is super helpful. So if new parents aren't aware of that, hopefully they'll find that. But I was just wondering if, and I don't even really know how you can do it with the driving shortage, but has there been any communication around providing that capacity for our out-of-district students? I mean, I'm fortunate that my son goes to school with 3 iPads due to battery needs, but and I'm able to track him by GPS.
Yeah.
I don't know that all families are that fortunate.
Yeah, we haven't added that GPS capability to all the other vehicles. So right now, we're down to 30 bus routes this year. We've actually eliminated a bus route in an effort to be more efficient and save money. And at this point, we have not expanded that beyond those big buses. Love to do that.
Yeah.
Love to do that.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen, just because some of our, traveling, obviously,
Yeah.
I need to tell you that stuck in traffic and that sort of thing can be incredibly
Yeah, those are
anxiety-inducing.
typically some of our longer, some
Right.
of our longest routes.
Right,
necessarily,
right.
so, yeah.
Well, thank you for having it on the list anyway, but does anyone else have any? I don't have an update. I do have something for not anticipated, another matter, but does anybody have any updates? Mr. Nunes?
yeah, I do, thank you. I think you saw outside when you were coming in, band camp has started, our students are here, and I know our fall sports all started out today, so, it's that exciting time of the year. In the Standard Times in the past couple of months, they've finally started saying congratulations to their spring super athletes and all-stars and that type of deal, and I know we've had several of them in there, so congratulations on that. And the last thing that I have, and I'll talk about, remind you of this a little bit later on as we go, but just to put on your calendar, the music department has got 2 home shows this year, one on September 30th, which is our U.S. bands, and then our NSBA show is October 14th. I don't have times. They're usually 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock till, depending how many bands are performing. So, I mean, I will,
I love that. Count me.
and I will be looking for
Yep.
presenters type of deal. So I'll, as I get more information, I will let you know.
Okay.
Okay? Thank
Anybody
you.
else have any updates? No? So I have something, I spoke to Dr. Marland, and she called me to say that she knows that we typically like to be updated on the school committee. Her and Mr. Shea wanted to know about being, coming to us if we had anything specific that we wanted to ask them that they could be prepared for. They would make themselves available. I let her know that we were setting our calendar for upcoming dates, but they were.
Cindy and
I said you.
What are you
would like-
referring to? Is
Cindy
Dr.
and
Marlin?
Mike Shea.
Mike Shea.
From
and
Vogue.
Oh,
Cindy
thank
Martin,
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank
for
you.
Vogue,
Yes,
to
yes, yes,
come
yes.
Okay.
just sort
I
of
hadn't,
speak
I
to
missed it
us.
at first too, so.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
no, it's me. They would like to, they are aware that we, like to
Yeah.
keep updated on things, and I let them know that I would mention it, and perhaps reach out to them to invite them if it's the pleasure of the committee, and if we had anything specific that we wanted them to report on, that they could, to let them know so that they could be prepared. But I just talked to her a few days ago, so I thought that was good.
Personally, maybe, once they get in, like at our October meeting,
Okay.
as, they've had their school opening and, got things in, some semblance of order there type of deal, and they can come and report how that's going and what's going on at Vogue.
Perfect.
If at Vogue that night,
So if we could.
that would
does
be
sound
okay.
good?
I'd be good with
Yeah,
that, or,
absolutely.
October, November,
Okay.
depending on what
Talk to
schedules
them
are.
and see they're available. Okay. Yeah, she said they'd be available. I said, well, don't promise yourself if,
Yeah.
but I thought that was nice.
Yeah,
Be
no.
proactive about coming before us and updating
Because
us,
we're still,
so.
when you talk to her, tell her we're still not seeing the Vogue minutes.
Okay,
So-
okay.
Well, I would also say.
And anything else?
I would also say the Voc minutes are still lacking
I-
in detail as required under MGL, but
I'm not going there.
I'm going to broken
That's-
record on that one.
That's above my pay grade, but I'm just saying, thought we had this straightened out, but I guess we don't and such, so.
Sounds good. Okay,
That's it.
great. So our next regular meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 6 PM. We moved our meetings from 6:30 to 6 for this
Yep.
upcoming year, here in the Library Media Center. So I guess that's it. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
No,
No roll call.
no roll call.
We're good.
Unanimous. Oh, no roll call? Oh,
roll call.
only
Only
for
for
going to
executive session.
I'll get it one of these years.
No problem.